The rehearsal dinner was perfect. Too perfect. Candlelight flickered across white tablecloths. Champagne glasses clinked in celebration. Laughter echoed through the private dining room. Everyone was having a wonderful time celebrating the wedding that would happen tomorrow. I stood in the hallway, hidden behind a decorative curtain near the restroom. I'd stepped away to take a breath, to calm my nerves. That's when I heard their voices. My fiancé, Marcus. And my cousin, Chloe. Once the wedding's done, I'll have access to her trust fund, Marcus said, his voice casual, almost bored. Then we can finally start our real life together. Chloe giggled. I'm so tired of playing the dutiful family helper. She actually believes I'm here to support her. She believes everything, Marcus laughed. That's what makes this so easy. My champagne glass was in my hand. I watched, almost detached, as my fingers tightened around the stem. The glass shattered silently in my fist. I felt nothing. Not the pain. Not the blood. Just a cold, absolute clarity spreading through my chest. And in that moment, I didn't break. I began plotting. He called off our wedding after what I did the night before. And I don't regret it. Not for a single second. My name is Allison Blake. I'm 28 years old, and I was supposed to get married last Saturday in a ceremony that cost more than most people's yearly salary. The venue was paid for by my late father's trust fund. The same trust fund Marcus had been planning to steal. 6 months earlier, everything seemed perfect. I was planning my dream wedding to my dream man. Marcus was charming, successful, attentive. He proposed on a beach at sunset with a ring that sparkled almost as much as his smile. I said yes before he finished asking. I was in love. Completely, foolishly, blindly in love. My father had passed away 2 years before, and I think part of me wanted to believe someone would take care of me the way he had. Marcus seemed like that person. Strong. Confident. Protective. But love makes you blind to cracks in the foundation. And those cracks had been there from the beginning. I just hadn't wanted to see them yet. The first crack appeared about 4 months before the wedding. I woke up one night to use the bathroom and noticed Marcus sitting on the couch, his phone glowing in the darkness. He was texting someone, smiling at the screen. When I asked who he was talking to, he jumped. Actually jumped. Then recovered quickly with that easy smile. Just work stuff. Client emergency. At 2 in the morning? I didn't say it out loud, but I thought it. He must have seen the doubt on my face because he added, you know how demanding this job is, babe. Come back to bed. I did. But I noticed something new after that night. Every time we talked, he turned his phone face down on the table. Every time it buzzed, he'd glance at it quickly, then ignore it until I left the room. Little things. Small things. The kind of things you tell yourself don't mean anything. But they always mean something. Chloe started coming around more after that. My cousin had always been on the outskirts of family events, friendly but not particularly close. Suddenly, she was everywhere. She volunteered to help with wedding planning. She offered to run errands. She started staying over at our apartment more and more frequently. She's like a sister to me, Marcus would say whenever I mentioned how often Chloe was around. Family comes first, right? Family comes first. He said it so often it became a mantra. When Chloe needed a place to stay for a week because her apartment was being fumigated, Marcus insisted she take our guest room. When she needed money for her car repair, he offered before I could even process the request. When I suggested maybe she was taking advantage, he looked at me like I'd kicked a puppy. She's your family, Allison. I thought you'd want me to help her. And what could I say to that? That my cousin made me uncomfortable? That something about their dynamic felt wrong? It sounded petty even in my own head. So I swallowed the unease and smiled. The dress fitting should have been a private moment. Just me, my mother, and my best friend Kayla. But when I arrived at the bridal boutique, Chloe was already there, sitting in one of the plush chairs with a glass of champagne. Surprise, she said, smiling wide. I wanted to see you in your dress. I looked at my mother, confused. She shrugged apologetically. She called and asked if she could come. I didn't think you'd mind. But I did mind. This was supposed to be my moment. Instead, Chloe spent the entire fitting making comments. That neckline is a little low, isn't it? Are you sure about that silhouette? Maybe something more traditional would be better. When I finally tried on the dress I loved, Chloe was quiet. Too quiet. I looked at her in the mirror and saw something flash across her face. Jealousy? Anger? It was gone too quickly to name. Later, when my mother asked why I seemed upset, Chloe played the victim perfectly. Did I do something wrong? I just wanted to be supportive. Everyone looked at me. Waiting. I forced a smile. No, it's fine. I'm just overwhelmed. The prenup conversation happened a week later. My father had been a successful businessman, and he'd always told me to protect my assets. Love is beautiful, he'd say. But paperwork is forever. Get a prenup. So I brought it up to Marcus over dinner. Casual. No big deal. Just something we should probably discuss before the wedding. His reaction was immediate. His face went red. His jaw tightened. You don't trust me? It's not about trust. It's exactly about trust, Allison. I thought we were building a life together. Now you want to plan for our divorce before we're even married? I'd never seen him angry like that. It scared me. But then, just as quickly, he calmed down. Took a deep breath. Reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry, he said softly. That was unfair. If a prenup makes you feel safe, then we'll do it. Whatever you need. The whiplash of his mood change left me dizzy. But I told myself it was fine. He'd just been hurt. That was normal. We'd work through it. The voicemail arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at work when my phone rang. Marcus's number. I was in a meeting, so I let it go to voicemail, planning to call him back later. When I listened to the message during my lunch break, I realized immediately that it had been left accidentally. I could hear background noise. Other voices. Then Marcus, laughing. She has no clue, he said to someone. Chloe's got her eating out of her hand. It's actually kind of impressive how naive she is. Another voice, male, unfamiliar, laughed. And she's really going through with the wedding? Of course. Why wouldn't she? She thinks I'm her Prince Charming. The voicemail lasted 45 seconds. I played it 3 times. Then a 4th. Each time, something inside me turned colder. Harder. By the 5th listen, I wasn't crying anymore. I was thinking. I saved the voicemail. Downloaded it to my computer. Made 3 backup copies. Then I called a lawyer. The attorney's name was Patricia Holmes, and she specialized in family law and asset protection. She listened to the voicemail without interrupting, her expression neutral and professional. This changes things, she said when it finished. You have proof of potential fraud. If he's planning to access your trust fund under false pretenses, we can protect you. We spent 2 hours going over everything. My father's trust. The terms of access after marriage. The prenup Marcus had reluctantly agreed to sign. Patricia made notes, asked questions, and finally looked up at me with something like approval. I'm going to update this prenup with some additional clauses. Things he won't notice unless he has a lawyer review it carefully. And given what you've told me about his attitude toward the prenup, I doubt he will. What kind of clauses? The kind that protect you completely. From financial claims, property division, even potential fraud charges if we need them. You'll be airtight. I also started separating my finances. Creating new accounts. Moving money quietly, carefully, making sure nothing looked suspicious. Building walls around everything I owned. The wedding preparations continued as if nothing had changed. I smiled through cake tastings. Nodded during florist consultations. Approved seating charts and menu selections. To everyone else, I was the excited bride counting down to her big day. But behind the scenes, I was digging. I hired a private investigator. I went through Marcus's emails when he left his laptop open. I checked phone records and credit card statements. Every night, while he slept beside me, I gathered evidence. The affair had been going on for 6 months. 6 months of hotel rooms and secret dinners and lies. 6 months of Chloe playing the helpful cousin while sleeping with my fiancé. The evidence was overwhelming. Text messages. Photos. Restaurant receipts. Hotel confirmations. I organized everything into a folder on my computer. Labeled it Wedding Vendor Contracts so Marcus would never think to look at it. Inside was the complete timeline of their betrayal, documented with the precision my father had taught me. My mother finally told me the truth 2 weeks before the wedding. We were having lunch at her favorite cafe when she reached across the table and took my hand. "Honey, I need to tell you something. About Marcus and Chloe." My stomach dropped. "You knew?" I suspected. "I saw them together a few months ago. The way they looked at each other." She trailed off, unable to meet my eyes. I didn't want to cause drama before the wedding. I thought maybe I was imagining things. I thought if I just stayed quiet. "You knew," I repeated, pulling my hand away. "You knew and you said nothing." "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" "The truth." I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You were protecting the wedding. The appearance of everything being perfect. Not me." I left her sitting there, tears streaming down her face. But I was done crying for people who'd betrayed me. The list was getting too long. The final dress fitting was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon. I went alone this time. No mother, no bridesmaids, no surprise appearances from Chloe. Just me and the seamstress, an older woman named Claire who'd been doing this for 40 years. She noticed immediately that something was wrong. Maybe it was the way I stared at my reflection without really seeing it. Maybe it was the tears I couldn't quite hold back. She didn't ask questions, just handed me tissues and adjusted the hem in silence. "Can you do something for me?" I asked finally. "Can you sew a hidden pocket inside the dress?" "Here, on the inside of the bodice." She looked at me for a long moment. Then nodded. "Of course, dear. No explanation needed." I smiled for the first time in days. "Thank you." The pocket would hold something small. Something important. A remote control for the sound system at the rehearsal dinner. I'd already arranged everything with the DJ, who thought I wanted to surprise Marcus with a special song. He had no idea what I was really planning. I threw Chloe a thank you party. A small gathering at our apartment to celebrate how helpful she'd been during wedding planning. I invited her closest friends, served expensive wine, and gave a speech about how lucky I was to have such a devoted cousin. Chloe beamed, soaking up the attention. Marcus stood beside me, his arm around my waist, playing the role of supportive fiancé. Everyone praised my generosity. My kindness. What a lucky girl I was to have such wonderful family. Inside, I was rehearsing. Going over every word I'd say tomorrow night. Every action I'd take. The timeline was set. The evidence was ready. The trap was laid. I smiled and poured more wine and accepted compliments with grace. And when everyone finally left, I cleaned up the apartment while Marcus and Chloe laughed together in the living room. They didn't even try to hide it anymore. They thought they'd already won. They had no idea the game had changed entirely. Marcus had insisted we co-sign a house 6 months earlier. A beautiful colonial in a good neighborhood, perfect for starting our married life. We'd been approved for the mortgage, signed preliminary paperwork, put down earnest money. But I'd been meeting with the realtor separately. Quiet meetings where I explained the situation, vaguely, carefully, and made arrangements. Additional paperwork signed without Marcus present. Legal documents that transferred sole ownership to me. When the deed was finalized, my name was the only one on it. Marcus had never bothered to check. He'd assumed everything was proceeding as planned. That assumption would cost him. The house was mine. Paid for with my money. Protected by my lawyer. If everything fell apart tomorrow, he wouldn't get a single room. I'd made sure of it. Patricia had been impressed. You're thinking 3 steps ahead. That's good. That's how you survive this. I wasn't trying to survive anymore. I was trying to win. And I was very close to victory. I hosted one final dinner with Marcus's family a week before the wedding. His parents, his sister, his grandmother. Everyone gathered around our dining table, eating the meal I'd spent hours preparing, praising what a wonderful wife I'd make. Marcus sat at the head of the table, king of his castle, completely confident. He had no idea what was coming. Neither did they. After dinner, while everyone was having coffee in the living room, I excused myself to put something in his office. A folder, placed carefully in his desk drawer. Inside were copies of everything. The voicemail transcript. Screenshots of text messages. Photos of him and Chloe together. Bank statements showing money he'd moved. Hotel receipts. Credit card charges. Everything he'd tried to hide, laid out in chronological order, impossible to deny. I left it there and rejoined the party, smiling. Later that night, Marcus went to his office to check his email. I heard the drawer open. Heard the papers rustling. Heard the long, heavy silence. When he came back to bed, he said nothing. Just kissed my forehead and turned out the light. He thought I'd stay quiet. That I'd be too embarrassed to call off the wedding. That I'd go through with it anyway because of sunk costs and family pressure and fear of judgment. He was wrong. The vow rehearsal was the day before the wedding. We stood at the altar, running through our ceremony, while the wedding coordinator directed everyone's movements. Marcus held my hands and looked into my eyes, reciting the vows he'd written. My hands trembled. But not from nerves. Not from excitement. From rage. From the effort it took not to scream every truth I'd been holding inside for weeks. I promise to love you, he said. To honor you. To cherish you for all the days of my life. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I squeezed his hands and smiled. I can't wait to marry you, I lied. The coordinator beamed. Perfect. You two are going to have a beautiful wedding. We were going to have a memorable one, at least. Just not in the way anyone expected. The rehearsal dinner started at 7. The restaurant was gorgeous, the private dining room decorated with flowers and candles. 50 of our closest family members and friends gathered to celebrate. Everyone was laughing, drinking, telling stories about Marcus and me. I wore a soft ivory dress. My hair was perfect. My makeup flawless. I played my role beautifully. The happy bride-to-be. The woman who had no idea her whole life was built on lies. At 8:30, I excused myself to use the restroom. Slipped away from the table while Marcus was deep in conversation with his best man. I walked down the hallway, past the bathrooms, to a quiet corner where I could hear but not be seen. That's when I heard them. Marcus and Chloe, talking in low voices just around the corner. And that's when my world cracked open one final time. When I heard Marcus confirm everything I'd suspected and feared. When I heard Chloe laugh about playing me for a fool. When I shattered the champagne glass in my hand and felt nothing but cold determination. I disappeared for 20 minutes. Everyone later said they thought it was just cold feet. A bride needing a moment alone before her big day. No one knew I was in the back office, preparing. Setting up. Making final arrangements with the confused but cooperative DJ. You're sure about this? He asked. I've never been more sure of anything. When I returned to the dining room, everyone had moved on to dessert. Marcus looked up, concerned. You okay? You were gone for a while. I'm perfect, I said. And I was. For the first time in months, I felt clear. Focused. Ready. I picked up my champagne glass, a new one, since I'd destroyed the first, and stood. Tapped it gently with my fork until the room fell silent. All eyes turned to me. I want to make a toast, I said, my voice steady. To truth. To loyalty. And to never settling for less than what you deserve. Confused smiles. Nods of agreement. Marcus raised his glass, looking relieved that I was keeping it brief. That's when I pulled the remote from the hidden pocket in my dress. I pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room through the speakers. Once the wedding's done, I'll have access to her trust fund. Then we can finally start our real life together. Chloe's giggle. I'm so tired of playing the dutiful family helper. The room went dead silent. 50 people frozen in shock. I watched faces change. Confusion to understanding. Understanding to horror. Marcus went white. Chloe's chair scraped back as she stood, her face red. We didn't. There's more, I said calmly. I pressed play again. Another clip. Marcus laughing with his friend. She has no clue. Chloe's got her eating out of her hand. It's actually kind of impressive how naive she is. His mother gasped. His father's face turned purple. My mother started crying. Chloe bolted for the door, her heels clicking frantically across the marble floor. She didn't make it. Marcus's sister blocked her path, arms crossed, face furious. Marcus stood, knocking his chair over. It's not what it sounds like. This is all, it was a joke. We were joking. Allison, you know I love you. I pulled off my engagement ring. 3 carats, platinum setting, the ring I'd worn for 6 months. I held it up so everyone could see it catch the light one last time. Then I dropped it into his wine glass. It landed with a soft splash, sinking to the bottom. Keep it, I said. It's not worth anything to me. Marcus stammered. Tried to explain. Tried to salvage the situation. But there was no salvaging this. Too many people had heard. Too much evidence had been presented. His carefully constructed facade was crumbling in real time. Finally, desperate to save face, he yelled, "Fine. The wedding's off. I'm calling it off." As if it was his decision. As if he had any control left. I turned to face the room. To face everyone who'd been planning to watch me marry this man tomorrow. My voice was calm, clear, and absolutely certain. The wedding has been off for weeks, I said. I just wanted all of you to know why. I wanted you to hear it from him. To understand exactly who you've been celebrating. I picked up my purse. Walked toward the door. Stopped next to my mother and whispered, "You knew. And you said nothing. I won't forget that." Then I left. Walked out of that restaurant with my head high and my conscience clear. Behind me, chaos erupted. Shouting. Crying. Accusations flying. But I didn't look back. The fallout was swift and brutal. By Monday morning, Marcus had lost the job offer at my father's firm. The partners had called him personally to rescind it. They'd heard what happened. They weren't interested in employing someone of questionable character. Chloe's fiancé, yes, she'd been engaged too, found out within hours. Someone at the rehearsal dinner knew him. By Sunday night, he'd ended things and put all her belongings on the curb. She tried calling me 17 times. I blocked her number after the first voicemail. My family was in chaos. My mother was being shunned by relatives who couldn't believe she'd known and stayed silent. My aunts stopped speaking to her. My grandmother called her a coward. The family was tearing itself apart, and I felt nothing but a cold satisfaction. Marcus tried calling too. Left voicemails that progressed from angry to pleading to desperate. I listened to exactly one. Deleted the rest without opening them. Marcus tried to claim part of the house. He called his own lawyer, finally got one, and attempted to argue that we'd purchased it together. That he had rights to it. Patricia shut that down with a single letter. The deed was in my name only. The purchase had been completed with my funds. He had no legal claim to any of it. The prenup he'd signed. The one with all those extra clauses he'd never bothered to read, protected me completely. He showed up at the house twice. Both times, I called the police. The second time, they warned him that another visit would result in a restraining order. He stopped coming after that. His belongings were packed and delivered to his mother's house. I didn't keep a single item. Not his clothes, not his books, not even his toothbrush. Everything that reminded me of him was gone. The house felt bigger without him. Cleaner. Like I could finally breathe. 3 months after the rehearsal dinner, I took a job at my father's company. I'd been offered a position years ago but turned it down to support Marcus's career. To be the supportive fiancé who prioritized his dreams over her own. Now, with nothing holding me back, I accepted. Started as a senior analyst. Within 6 months, I was promoted to director. The board was impressed by my strategic thinking, my attention to detail, my ability to see problems before they became disasters. "You have your father's mind," the CEO told me. "He'd be proud." I thought about that a lot. About how my father had always told me to protect myself. To be smart. To never let love make me stupid. He'd tried to warn me, in his way. I wished I'd listened sooner. But I was listening now. And I was thriving. The text arrived on a random Tuesday, 4 months after everything fell apart. Unknown number, but I recognized the typing style immediately. "Marcus. Can we talk? I miss you. I made a mistake. We made a mistake. We." As if Chloe and I had been equal participants in his betrayal. I stared at the message for a long time. Thought about responding. Thought about listing every reason he was wrong, every way he'd hurt me, every consequence he deserved. Instead, I deleted the entire thread. Blocked the number. And went back to my work. He wasn't worth the energy of a response. He wasn't worth my anger or my time or my words. He was just nothing. An unpleasant memory I was actively forgetting. As for Chloe, rumors filtered back through the family. She'd moved to another state. Started over somewhere where no one knew her story. No one talked about her anymore at family gatherings. Her name became taboo. She'd been erased. 6 months after my non-wedding, I took a vacation. Solo trip to the coast, staying at a beautiful resort where I could finally relax. No one knew me there. No one asked about what happened or looked at me with pity or curiosity. On my last evening, I walked down to the beach at sunset. I'd brought something with me. The dried flowers from what would have been my wedding bouquet. I'd kept them in a box, not out of sentimentality, but as a reminder. A symbol of the life I'd almost accepted. I walked to the water's edge. Felt the waves wash over my feet. Looked out at the endless horizon, painted orange and pink and gold by the dying sun. Then I scattered the flowers. Watched them float away on the tide. Watched them disappear into the vast, indifferent ocean. I wasn't ruined, I said out loud to no one. I was redirected. The words felt true. Real. Like something my father would have said. I stand in my office now, overlooking the city. The corner office I'd earned through hard work and determination. The life I'd built by myself, for myself, without compromise. People sometimes ask if I regret what I did. If I wish I'd handled things differently. If I'd been too harsh. I don't regret it. Not for a single second. Marcus called off our wedding after what I did the night before. He yelled it in front of 50 people, trying to salvage his pride. Trying to make it look like his choice. But the truth is, I'd ended things weeks earlier. The moment I heard that voicemail. The moment I understood who he really was. Everything after that was just theater. Just making sure everyone else understood too. He wanted my money. My status. My father's legacy. He wanted to use me and discard me once he got what he needed. He underestimated me completely. That was his first mistake. And his last. I saved myself. I protected everything my father worked for. I walked away with my dignity and my assets and my self-respect completely intact. That's the only happily ever after I ever needed. Not a wedding. Not a husband. Not a fairy tale ending. Just me, standing on my own, owing nothing to anyone, free from the lies. He called it off, but I was already gone. And I've never looked back. Not once. That's not regret. That's freedom. And freedom, I've learned, is worth everything.